Hello and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm going to be doing another review roundup for you. Going to catch up with 3 films that I saw recently that I'm very excited to talk to you about. Petite Maman, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and The Northman. First up today is Petite Maman. This is a French language film from director Celine Sciamma, whose most recent film is probably well known among indie circles, that being Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I don't want to get too much into a plot synopsis for this film because it's only an hour and 12 minutes. It's a fairly short film, but in that film is a lot to discover, in particular, a very unique twist that I don't want to allude to and I want you to discover when you go see it, because I definitely recommend you see this film. It is such a charming exhibition of the normative maladaptation that any child will imagine. They'll interpret the world around them through their creative imagination. And I think what this movie does so well is explore when children have to come to terms with adulthood, or they have to mature, when they're in the presence of something that will mature them, how they process that internally. It's a very insightful film as to how we all age, and also the similarities and differences that we have at different ages with the people that we love. It's a film that's not restricted by time. It is spiritual. You're left so emotionally moved and not questioning the choices, which is always what a filmmaker should do. You shouldn't be left, wondering about certain choices. They should just fit together and you should be moved by it. And I so was moved. There was multiple times when there were tears streaming down my face. That's how effective this film was. For a film that's centered around death and a child's first experience with loss, it's very charming and very sweet. The story is succinctly told, where even though it's an hour and 12 minutes, it's much shorter than probably the average running time for a film, you still get so much complexity and depth in these characters. And a lot of them are children characters. And I think the 2 young girls who play the 2 leads, this movie owes so much to their performances and their knowledge beyond their years, because they're able to convey such emotional depth in their performances that it's breathtaking in some ways to behold, because it also reminds me of Saoirse Ronan and Lady Bird, where there's so much being done with these performances, but you almost don't recognize them because they feel so natural. It's very atmospheric, but maybe not in the ways that you're used to hearing that word, because it captures the spontaneity of childhood, that it can often be meandering, but the film is never meandering. It's very controlled, and Sciamma always has a grasp on the story that she's telling. There's a scene where the characters are running in the rain, and it brings you back to those childhood days when, there wasn't a care in the world, and even though you had a hood on your jacket, you didn't put it up because you weren't thinking, because you're a kid and you're just gonna run in the rain and get wet. Between the warmth of the cinematography, the fluidness of the edit, and the soul of the performances, this was just such an emotionally affecting film that was the perfect treat to see on Mother's Day. Moving on to the next film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This film stars Nicolas Cage playing Nick Cage, a very clear parallel to his own real-life persona. This film plays like an inside joke that you're being let in on. This movie almost plays more as an introspective look at the trajectory of actors in Hollywood, and specifically Nicolas Cage, than a straightforward meta comedy, which I think is also what contributes to the fact that the pacing is a little bit off. The movie feels a tad long, but again, that might be because you're trying to take a comedy structure and apply it to something that has greater ambitions. But still, it has a lot of funny moments. There's a great bit where Nicolas Cage puts a chemical on his face and then starts to, get stoned out. And there's a lot of fun. Tiffany Haddish and Ike Barinholtz are also good here. Sharon Horgan, who was one of my favorite cast members in the Game Night film. I really enjoyed seeing her again here. And then Pedro Pascal. And then, of course, Nicolas Cage. He really commits to the film. He commits to the jokes as well as he commits to the dramatic moments. Where most Hollywood comedies fall into cynicism, this one actually feels genuine. It feels like it's wearing its heart on its sleeve. And I appreciate the levity and the heart that the film has. They always say that for comedy to work, the storyline must work as drama first, and that's definitely the case with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Then lastly today, we have The Northman, the 3rd feature from Robert Eggers, who previously did 2016's The Witch and 2019's The Lighthouse. Now, I definitely recommend trying to see this in a theater. I know Doctor Strange took a whole bunch of show times from your local theaters, but I definitely stress that seeing this in a theater is to really witness how this film was meant to be seen, because it is such a well-crafted masterwork from Eggers, and I really appreciate the way that he very strikingly explores the hypocrisy of masculinity in a lot of ancient stories and traditions. In this fantastically grounded thriller, we're able to confront how men have been portrayed as heroes in dynamic ways that both allow the film to be authentic to its origin and its culture and the past of the Viking lore, and also having a foot in the present, being very current in giving certain characters agency, especially certain female characters, and hearing their voice in ways that would have been ignored in the past. Eggers is able to maintain both at the same time, and they could have been very contradictory, but it never feels that way. It feels that he has a strong hand over the concoction that he's brewing here. There are many impressive one-shots. The production design really creates the world that we're consumed by. I really love the way that he brings in the spiritual element and a lot of the Norse myth. It's a brutally captivating film that really makes sure that the pathos of the story is always front and center, which is needed in a world where it could feel very foreign to us. But because the film is from a different time and place, our way in as an audience is through the emotional journeys of the characters. And that was another thing that really surprised me. He presents a very expected narrative and then subverts it with a great monologue from Nicole Kidman near the end of the film that I think is one of the best things she's done in years, probably since Big Little Lies, where she was, of course, acting alongside Alexander Skarsgård, who played her husband in that show and her son in this, which is a little distracting, just a tad, a little bit, but it was a lot of fun to see them together. And there's no denying that they really have some great chemistry in terms of being acting partners. They really create such great characters in the presence of each other, and they're able to pull out such amazing work out of the other person. It's a very confrontational film because you'll be on the side of a certain character, and then after one choice that Eggers made, you're questioning every choice that came before. So it's a film that's not afraid to really play with its audience, and I love that. I love that a film is willing to challenge their audience, and maybe by the end of the film you have a lot of questions, but they're good questions. They're questions that speak more about your life than the lives of the filmmakers. On an independent level, I would say this has the scope of Dune, the grit of Game of Thrones, and the craft of Mad Max Fury Road. And if that's not enough to get you to go seek out the Northmen, then I don't know what will. So those are my reviews for 3, I would say, really good, if not fantastic films. Let me know if you saw any of them, and if not, I hope I persuaded you to go check these out, either in theaters, as I would recommend, or even at home. I would just recommend you see these movies at some point. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to not miss any new videos from Spoilers Ahead with Anthony Post. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you at the movies.